Good afternoon. My name is Carmen Henry. I am a strategy and insights manager for automotive here at Google, and I am delighted to be with you all today. Today, I am going to be talking to you about what transpired in the first half of the year, as well as things such as sales, consumers, inventory, some trends that we're seeing, and then looking ahead to the second half of 2023 in terms of the challenges that are to come. So we all know the automotive industry has been evolving and constantly changing. So buckle up and let's all enjoy the ride. So starting off with the first half of 2023, we sold about 7.6 million vehicles, an increase of 13% year over year. And the SAR is actually at about 15.4 million. So let's just take a quick step back here. In 2022, we sold about 13.9 million vehicles. And this year, we're on track to sell well over 15 million. So we are definitely trending in the right direction. In addition to these sales, what we saw was that retail sales were up by about 7%, and fleet sales were up by roughly 45%. Sales were up year over year for pretty much most of the OEMs. There were a few that experienced some declines, but all in all, we have a great start to the year. The momentum is expected to continue, and consumers are optimistic and are purchasing. So now let's look at inventory. From an inventory point of view, we have about 1.9 million vehicles, and those are vehicles that are on the ground as well as vehicles that are in transit. And that translates to about a 36-day supply. So we are actually over forecast in regards to vehicles, and this is largely attributed to the suppliers as well as the OEMs ramping up a lot faster than expected. So when we look at May inventory compared to June, it went up by 5%. But if we take a further look back and we look at June 2022 versus June 2023, inventory is up actually 55%. So now let's look at where exactly this inventory is and what it is. So I want all of us to kind of take a step back here. So during the pandemic, many dealers as well as OEMs were pretty much building vehicles that were high margin. So with that being said, we had a lot of vehicles that were luxury vehicles as well as SUVs and pickups. So that caused a lot of different shifts. Some of those shifts included that the average transaction price actually went up by 25%. Right now, as of June, the average transaction price was over $48,000. And then in addition to that, we had rising interest rates as well as credit tightening. So we have seen some increases in regards to more affordable vehicles. So when we look at it, approximately 35% of the inventory that's currently available is made up of the non-luxury segment. Now, I know that may not seem like a lot, but let's go a little bit deeper. So when we look at affordable vehicles, and that would be like your entry-level sedans as well as smaller CUVs and smaller SUVs, we are currently at 16% of inventory, and we were at 15%. I know that sounds like only 1 percentage point, but the thing is that from May 2021 to May 2023, this segment actually stayed stagnant or was declining. So the fact that we are actually getting more vehicles that are affordable is very important to the industry. And I'm going to go more into detail further along in the presentation. So let's talk about the financial piece of it. As I stated on the last slide, Our average transaction price has gone up by 25% since 2019. The average vehicle note is over $700. And then when we look at people who are actually spending over $1,000 on vehicles, it is roughly about 1 in 6. So can you imagine that? And then taking a deeper look at it, with the rising interest rates as well as the credit tightening, it's getting a lot harder for customers to actually get credit. So I wanted to look at what consumer sentiment is. So basically, University of Michigan comes up with consumer sentiment every month, and it's based on a number of different factors, including economic factors as well as buying conditions. And the good thing is that customers are actually optimistic, which helps explain why during the first half of the year, we saw record-breaking sales. In fact, it's been a 28% increase year over year in regards to customers being optimistic about the economy. Next, I wanted to look at how do customers feel about purchasing a vehicle. University of Michigan, once again, has a consumer sentiment where basically they ask consumers, is now a good time to purchase a vehicle, or is now a bad time to purchase a vehicle? And the good thing is that based on the survey, most people think that it's a good time to purchase a vehicle. But peeling the onion back a little bit further is actually a paradigm. And the reason why I say this is because when asked, why is now a good time to purchase a vehicle, most people stated due to inventory. As you all know, we have a lot more inventory than what we had previously, so customers have choices. And then the second reason why was because there were actually deals to be had. So when we look at customers who said now was not a good time to purchase, the top reason that they stated was due to affordability. So looking at this, like I said, it's kind of a paradigm. So prices have gone up by 25%, that we know, but customers were 3 times more likely to say due to rising interest rates as well as credit tightening. So as all of you know, most customers finance their vehicles. So not only are they concerned about price, but they're also concerned about the cost in order to get the financing. And then when you couple this with, we have a lot more expensive cars than what we had previously, we can see how this kind of unravels. So I've kind of summed up the first half of 2023. What we know is that consumers are optimistic, consumers are purchasing. The outlook is looking very bright for this year. Now I am going to move into the second half of 2023 and some different trends that we're seeing, as well as some challenges that we're seeing ahead. So this chart shows the percent of registration changes in households that had 100,000 or less in regards to income from 2019 to 2022. So what we have seen is that this demographic has actually gone down anywhere from 22% to 45%. So just to put a little bit of context behind this, in 2019, 44% of new vehicle buyers' household income was 100,000 or less. In 2022, there was only 30% of buyers 100,000 or less. So basically in 3 years, we lost 15% of that market. In addition, when we look at registrations, there were about 6 million registrations in 2019. And then in 2022, we lost about 40% to 3.4 million. And the reason why all of this is important is because we know in order to sell more vehicles going forward, this demographic makes up a large portion. So we already know what the factors are. Affordability being the main factor. Now, I know previously in the slides, we kind of talked about availability of vehicles. But having a vehicle mix that also has some entry-level vehicles as well as mid-level vehicles is going to be important, especially to get these people who are in market to actually purchase vehicles. And then I am going to talk about student loans coming up next here. So we all know that in 2020, they kind of put a forbearance on student loans. So for most student loans, people did not have to pay. Student loans actually doesn't discriminate. Anyone from 18 and up can have student loans. Right now, there are about 36 million people who currently carry student loans. And the big thing for us is that our largest demographic, which is the 25 to 49, generally speaking, about anywhere from 1 in 3 to about 1 in 5 owe student loans. So that's anywhere from about 20% to about 25% have this debt that they'll have to deal with come September 1st if legislation is not passed. So what exactly does this mean? So the average student loan is about $37,338. And as I stated earlier, the average vehicle or monthly vehicle note is a little bit over $700. So basically, what's going to happen is that those who owe student loans, they roughly on average owe about $377, which is half of a vehicle payment. So just to put this into context, as all of you know, when we look at our everyday expenses, grocery shopping, etc., those expenses have gone up. Credit cards, those expenses have gone up due to inflation. So for some customers, it is going to be a question as to, do I purchase a new vehicle or do I take care of my regular household items that I need to do? Do I purchase a new vehicle or purchase a new house? Do I hold on to the vehicle that I currently have and try to get that to run, or do I purchase a new vehicle? And in addition to that, when we look at the number of customers who are being rejected for auto loans, it's at an all-time high. And then some customers who are actually able to get loans, they are actually having to pay a lot more for financing. So all of this coupled is what we should be thinking about going into the future. Like, how do we convey these messages to them? Do we need to provide additional incentives? Do we need to focus in on fixed stops also as an area of opportunity? Now I am going to talk about EVs. EVs have been having record-breaking quarters. Last quarter, we sold roughly 300,000 EVs, which was the most EVs that we've ever sold. More customers are interested in EVs than ever before, but we do know that while the EV game is very exciting, there are some barriers with EVs. One barrier is charging anxiety and range anxiety. We've seen a lot of OEMs kind of partner in this space in order to have more chargers available. So for instance, we've seen a number of OEMs partner with Tesla so that their vehicles are also compatible with Tesla chargers. We've also seen a number of OEMs kind of band together in order to create a charging alliance. Now, the other big barrier for EVs is price. So I've stated that the average price for a new vehicle is somewhere between $48,000 and $49,000. When we look at luxury vehicles, it's somewhere around $65,000. And then when we look at EVs, the price of EVs have actually gone down to nearly about 55,000 as of May, and we're seeing that number continue to go down due to a number of factors. One being that we have a lot of EV launches that are scheduled. So we have new EVs and new segments. The other one is that we have kind of a lot of inventory right now, roughly almost 100-day supply for EVs. So we are seeing some OEMs participate in price wars, such as Tesla, as well as Ford. Going forward, it's going to be very important since for most customers, they aren't familiar with EVs. It's in the early adoption phase of EVs to educate customers and to let them know what it is in order to own an EV, whether it's maintenance, charging, and etc. So the next thing is the EV tax credit. So the EV tax credit, at first, everyone was very excited about the EV tax credit. It continues to be searched a lot here. It's been some iterations, and with every iteration comes new rules as well as regulations, but it's still top of mind for consumers. In addition, we have seen some states also give tax credits as an additional incentive for customers to purchase EVs. And it's going to be very interesting over the next 4 years as we see there'll be more EV vehicles that will launch compared to ICE vehicles. So it's going to get very competitive. Next, I am going to talk about politics. And I know you're wondering, Carmen, like, why are we talking about politics and why is this important? So we know that we go through this election cycle every 4 years. And with this election cycle, we are always bombarded with a number of campaign commercials and campaign information. So in 2024, it'll be no different. According to Ad Age, advertisers are going to spend about $11 billion on election campaign ads. So why is this important to you? This is important to you for a number of reasons. Number one, in regards to ad inventory, it's going to be a lot tighter, as we're going to have $11 billion that is going to come into the advertising industry. So it's going to be important that you plan in advance, and it's going to also get a lot more expensive. In addition to that, customers are going to get a lot of advertising messages that is going to be coming to them. So how do you break through the clutter, and how do you actually connect to your customers so that they can say, oh, I remember that vehicle ad that I saw. I remember that SUV ad, or etc. And then this is going to also be especially important in swing states, as these states are going to have a lot more advertising than the traditional states. So one good thing about Google here is that we do have YouTube that is available, and we have content creators that come in all the time. So you do have the ability to actually, if you think programming works better for your brand or may resonate better with your customers, you do have the opportunity to do that with YouTube. Right now, I am going to walk you through a practical, real world example that I'm currently going through, and then I'm going to tie it back to the auto industry. So I've been living in my place for about 15 years. I have family that is coming to town to see me. So let me tell you what this family looks like. They'll be here in the next 3 weeks. So I have a brother who loves football, and he is not going to miss a football game, and he has to see it in full HD. I also have my nephew. He is an avid gamer. And then I have my niece who loves to watch YouTube as well as watch her cartoons. So I need to figure out how I'm going to be able to get a TV that fits my needs as well as all their needs before they get here. So I do all my research. I look online. I see a couple of different TVs that I'm interested in, but based on customer reviews, based on availability, based on my budget, I decided that I'm going to get a LG. Now, this LG, where am I going to purchase it from? Amazon has it with free delivery, Target, Walmart, Best Buy. So, it's pretty much the TV is the same regardless of where I buy it from. The price point is exactly the same. So how do I decide where I'm going to get it from and really who has the competitive advantage? It's really what the question is. And in many ways, this is very similar to what you all experience every day. A customer decides they're going to buy a particular SUV or a particular sedan. Pretty much they can go to any of that brand's dealerships in order to get it. So really it's about why should the customer choose you and how are you connecting to the customer in order to make them choose you. So turns out we actually did a survey and we asked, what are the deciding factors in regards to how you choose a dealership? And actually, customer service is the top priority. So let's just think about when we do our advertising and etc. What are we saying about our customer service? A lot of times we say we have the best vehicles, we have the best price, we have fixed ops, service your vehicle, and etc. But how do we really bring in that human element that really differentiates us from our competitors and gets customers to say, yes, I want to go with that brand. Yes, I want to purchase from that dealership. So we have kind of gone through what has transpired during the first half of 2023. We've also gone through some of the trends as well as some of the challenges that are up ahead of us. And like I said, let's just all buckle up and enjoy this wild ride that we are currently on.
Again, we're going to go through these really quick. I highlighted one or two of these that Carmen mentioned as well, and the only reason why we want to talk about these is it actually matters for our marketing and what we're doing. So as she mentioned, sales are up right now year over year, about 13%. We see this 36-day supply. She talked about in the EV world, there's a 100-day supply. You all probably recall in the dark days of COVID, those were 6-day supplies. I remember getting one of my dealerships calling and saying 9 days supply. So it's really nice to see that trend going back up, and more vehicles on the lot, more to sell. Interest rates are high, and that affects when people are looking. We're going to talk automotive, obviously, but the other thing is we could look at this with a lot of other outside of our, there's automotive specific industries here, but we could look at this outside of automotive and we'd see some of the same pain points and some of the same successes that we're seeing. I think Carmen and Phil both talked about the customer sentiment. Car prices have gone up a lot the last few years. They're starting to come down slightly. Manufacturers are finally coming back to the table with some incentives. So here's kind of the good and bad of all of those things that Carmen talked about and the few we highlighted. Prices are getting better. They're not where any of us want them, but they're coming down. Inventory is adequate. Again, it's not where it once was, but it's better than it has been for years. And of course, interest rates affect decisions on a lot of that. So what I wanted to do, I told this to Brendan when we were thinking what we wanted to talk about. He watch his eyes, he'll probably roll as I go through this a little bit. I don't know if he was as sold on this as I was. But this is an actual slide from a similar presentation we had back in 2016. We'd actually just moved into this office. We'd been here a few weeks, and we invited clients. This was something we did similar to this alongside Google, and you can see on there it's a nice little diagram of 24 average touch points. 19 of those happen to be digital marketing, and you can kind of highlight and see what some of those are. Then we fast forward it. I was at a Google Automotive Summit at Google's headquarters in the Bay with Brendan in 2019, and we saw a shift in that same slide. What this shift now says is 300 touch points, and people are spending 100 days doing their research on the vehicles they want to buy. Again, this same trend with all of them. More touch points. Then we fast forward to today, and it's getting more complex. I think the statistic that we saw is the majority of shoppers are researching for just over 30 days. So they're spending less time researching, and the touch points are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of touch points. I heard a thing a while back that continues to prove itself more and more true every day, and that's this idea that we don't go online anymore. None of us turn to our family and say, well, I'm going to go online. We live online. Everything we do all day, every day is online. What that means is there's more touch points. There's more chances and opportunities for us to get in front of customers and clients who are ready to buy vehicles today, who are researching. And we know the journey can be messy and complex, and that's why we use all this great data that Google and team puts together, and then we go to work on how to get this message in front of people. So what does it mean for you or for me or for our customers and clients? Again, just a real quick recap of that. 71% of car buyers are now considering buying it online. In the past, that number was 0%, 13%, 10%, 20%. And now it's up to 71%. All the things we mentioned before, interest rates, vehicle pricing, EVs, their introduction, and many other things have made it so brand loyalty is kind of deteriorating right before us. Someone who would only buy a Ford before is now willing to look at other models. They'll consider things. So the research and this idea of purchasing and their decisions, that pace is picking up. It's no longer 120 days, 100 days, it's 30 days. And all of that means we need to make sure we're getting in front of your customers, and that becomes more important than it ever has.
So most of you probably know this, but Google came out with their dealer guidebook. They come out with it every year. So I went through and just wanted to pick out a few things that I thought were really interesting, some takeaways that you guys can all take home. So one thing that I did think was interesting is they give a depiction of the funnel, and then from both an OEM standpoint and a dealer standpoint, who should own what part of the funnel, who should be involved in which portions of the funnel. And I thought it was pretty interesting that dealers are expected to be part of the funnel probably higher than most people realize, most dealers realize. When those consumers are choosing between brands of cars, that's when the dealership should start being involved in the funnel. This means that dealerships are responsible for bringing consumers into their funnel more than they realized before, or maybe that they're doing currently. I know I'm going to shock you guys all, but Google is the place that people research things. That's where people go to get information. When they start looking to research a product, that's where they go. I know that's shocking, but something that was shocking to me was actually something that they put in their slide that you can see. It says that 66% of consumers are utilizing Google search somewhere along their path, which I found very interesting. Not surprising that a lot of people use Google, right? But what was interesting to me was the fact that means that there are 34% of consumers that are not utilizing Google search within their journey and research. That means a third of the market is not going to be hit by a paid search or a VLA ad. I think that's pretty powerful. I don't think it was the point of Google's slide, but it was something that I thought was very interesting for dealers to consider. If you're doing just search and just VLAs, right there you're missing out on a third of the potential buyers. So to follow up on that, I just wanted to talk a little bit about YouTube. Obviously, Google is the biggest search engine in the world. YouTube is the number 2 search engine in the world. And really, video is where consumers do a ton of vehicle research. That's where they watch videos about features, and you guys know all the videos people watch. But something that I found interesting was the type of consumers that are watching online video, and then the actions that they're taking after they're watching online video. So it said that 44% of people that are watching online video are actually visiting a dealership. I think that's extremely powerful to realize that, yes, while video can be more awareness and generating demand and higher up in that funnel, these are consumers that are driving into dealerships. And so it's just not just a branding play, and something that we feel like it should be a part of a full funnel approach.
So the one other thing that we wanted to talk about, Max Connect, we work with hundreds of dealerships around the country. We're in the East Coast, we're on the West Coast. We work with these large dealership groups, we work with small groups. We don't have a cookie cutter, custom fit approach that works for all dealerships. It's not out there. What we believe actually works better is to make sure we're strategically thinking about how are we working on awareness? What are some of our high funnel approaches, and what are we trying to get from that? What are we trying to do to engage and re-engage our customers? What are we doing in that mid-funnel approach? And then, of course, what are we doing in that low funnel? And what are we doing to actually bring in leads and drive sales and move more vehicles and all of that? So when we sit down with a new dealership, the conversation is around their goals and their strategy, and then we build in what their marketing plan actually looks like. And for every dealership, it's probably a little bit different based off that. What this is actually a look. We've kind of pulled out any names of dealerships, but this is one of our current, this is a client who you can say it's 12 months history. And this is when we start to do things right. We're focused on how do we bring in awareness? How do we teach them what we're doing? How do we make sure that you're top of mind? And then we start making sure not just that they're engaged, they're re-engaged. We've seen over and over again how important it is to get them back to the website, back doing research, getting them information they want, helping them so they're ready and prepared to make decisions, and then finally a purchase. So this is actual data, a 5-dealer group, 5 rooftop dealer group that we work with. The numbers aren't that important. I included them so we could see what this actually looks like. But as we start to build marketing strategies for people, these are the things we're looking for. For them, in that 12-month look, 40 million impressions, okay? What are we doing to get the word out there that you exist, and this is what your product is, this is what the vehicles that you have on lot look like. And then from there, again, 700,000 views drove 1 million clicks, 250,000 new and used VDPs, 23,000 leads. We're talking form fills, phone calls, chats, texts, down to they, in that 12-month period, looked at 90 or sold 9,500 new or used vehicles. That's the kind of funnel that we're trying to build for our clients. And it looks different for all of them, but for us, that's what's important, is getting that full funnel approach.
I lost. Okay, there I am. Something that I love that Ryan and really the Max Connect team as a whole have really focused on is business outcomes. That's all. We've always been focused on trying to help our clients achieve better business outcomes. Right, selling cars is the goal, and it's our goal for our clients too. And so that's one of the reasons that we preach this full funnel approach is not because we want to have more channels or more complexity. It's because we have a belief in it. We feel like the end result is improving business outcomes because, like what has been mentioned in previous talks, is that we're not successful unless you guys are successful. And so business outcomes is our goal. And yeah. Want to thank you guys for coming out, listening to us. I'm really happy because I'm a nerd just by trade. I focus on numbers, analytics, and data is my thing. And so I was really nervous to come here and present to a huge crowd. But luckily, we got the hottest room in the entire building. So, hey, it's been a pleasure to talk to you, a small crowd of people. Thank you.